Hey Truth Seekers, it's Nathaniel with another deck profile. Today I'm going to be doing Ezra, Faith, and Universal. So start off with Ezra. Ezra has the effect that during your score phase, you may convert any Faith cost on a single Animo into any Faith that discards into a regular Faith cost. So that way you don't have to discard your power cards once per turn while Ezra's your Truth Seeker. I chose to run 4 Faith Power because I run 2 Hoofed Ultras. They help me get my power cards. And then I run 3 Fastings and 1 Prayer. I run 1 Prayer because I do run Servitudes, and I do not have another Pulse Chains in this deck. I only have 2 instead of 3, and I didn't want to run Scarlet Cord in this deck because there's not a lot of replayability. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to max out Prayer Group and activating some Faith Animo that have high value for that would normally discard power cards. And then I run this 1 Prayer so that way I can activate my Servitude or Pope Raise and get it out of play in case I need to. So let's move these over here. Start off with, I got 2 Paul's Chains, as I mentioned before. Paul's Chains says that the Animo it's equipped to cannot be activated, but can just be discarded anytime during your setup phase. Then, once per turn, as long as this card is attached to an Animo in your small group, you may search your deck for up to 2 level 1 ammo and place them in your small group. If there is no room in your small group, this card has no use. And so I use these to help search for my level 1s. There's a lot of level 1s in this deck for me to search for. And I have Pause Maws and Giant Killer. Pause Maws prevents my opponent from playing a Cine on me for 1 turn. And Giant Killer allows me to search my deck for a Mega Cine and play it on my opponent. Or, if I'm facing a Mega Cine, I can return it to the owner's hand and have them shuffle it back into their deck. Along with those story cards, I also have the Runaway, because I have a lot of ways of... I need Animo for my discard pile to come back to me, which this deck is all about recycle. So we'll see how that plays out here. And then, because I use story cards a lot, I'm going to be using the Rich Fool, which lets me draw the bottom 3 cards of my deck to help me keep up my draw power. Not a particular theme with the Cines in this deck, just shows some good ones. Got Murkay in here, says that as long as this Cine remains active, my opponent may draw no more than 2 cards during their draw phase, regardless of hand size. Zapper King says your opponent may not play any level 1 Animo from their hand to their small group next turn. Detestable says your opponent must discard one of their equipment cards that are in play, so this way I can get rid of their Pulse Chains. Venomouth has the ability, says as long as this Cine is active, your opponent may not your opponent's Animo may not be activated in the same turn that they are added to or grown in their small group. Venomouth Mega has the action, says your opponent may not activate any level 1 Animo on their next turn. Lurkai Mega says I can select an Animo in my opponent's small group and flip it over. As long as the Cine is active, that opponent or that Animo may not be interacted with in any way. Fear Crow Mega Plus has counts as defeating 2 Cines when it is defeated, but has the action that your opponent may not play any cards from their hand on their next turn. So these are the Cine I chose for the deck. Pretty powerful ones. Have 2 Hightails, so I can keep up with draw power in the deck. 1 Pope Raise, so that way I have the ability to defend myself against the actions of Cines. And 1 Servitude, so that way I can draw a card for each of the Faith Animo that I'm going to have in my small group. And then my last Love Animo that I have is Flow Ultra, so that way I can use its swap ability to discard Flow Ultra to search my deck for any 3 Animo and place them in my hand. It's one of like the best cards in the game. Finally, let's get my Universal Animo. Got 2 Bibsies. Bibsy says when this card is played from your hand to your small group, you may draw 1 card for each Animo in your small group besides this one. Now, I did mention I'm doing a lot of draw power with this, and that is because this deck is about recycling cards, and we'll see how that plays out here in a moment. I have 3 Mercifiers, so that way I can pay 1 Fasting to activate them, or I can use their ability to search my deck for a level 1 Animo that I'm looking for. Then I have 3 Prayer Groups. Prayer Groups basically is kind of like our win condition for this deck, along with a few other cards in the Faith side of things. It says, you may activate this card using up to 6 of your any power. When activated, this card is worth 3 virtue points for each power that is used to activate it. So I'll get my 3 Fastings out there, and I will activate each of these. I'll activate this guy. using 3 fastings, and that counts as 6 power. So he'll become an 18. It's pretty good. Next up, I got Pump Kindle from Cross Trainers. Pump Kindle has the action that says, shuffle 3 cards from your discard pile back into your deck. And he requires me to discard a power, so I can use Ezra to not do that, and then I still activate him for 4 for 1, which is decent value. But I get 3 cards back from my discard pile, which could be my Hoof It could be my Prayer Group, it could be power cards, it can be any number of things. I have 2 Armorinos from Cross Trainers. It says once per turn, as long as this Cindy's in your small group, you may place 1 Faith power card from your discard pile into your power pool. He's helpful because sometimes just once per turn with Ezra isn't great, so I'll activate one of these guys, get like a 1 for 5 or a 1 for 4, discard that power card, and on the following turn I'll play Armorino and use Armorino to get that power card back. And now I mentioned I use story cards a lot, and that's because I have Mayseal from Red Letter Day. Mayseal has the action that says you may return a story card from your discard pile back to your hand, so that way I can keep recycling the rich full and keep drawing cards. I have 1 Hoof It. Normally I like to run 2 Hoof Its in a deck, but this deck already recycles a lot, so I'm only going to run 1 Hoof It. Then I have 3 Trustees. Trustee has that handy dandy universal cost, so that way I instead of running the other Trustees that cost 2 faith, I can use this one that costs 1 faith and 1 universal. And then I only run 1 of the Trustees that draws me cards, because one of my win conditions is the Red Letter Day Trustee that reduces its cost for each Trustee in my discard pile. So I will get this Trustee out, I will activate I'll use his ability to discard him. So now I have 2 Trustees in there. Now this Trustee is only going to cost me 1. And after I activate the first after I activate one of these Trustees, the next Trustee is going to be free. Next up, since this is a universal deck, I have Flamingro, who has he doesn't have an ability, but he does grow into Flamingro level 2, who has the ability that says when this card is played to grow Flamingro level 1, you may select any 3 cards in your discard pile and place them in any order on the bottom of your deck. So I'm already drawing a lot of cards. What I'm trying to do with this is use Flamingro to draw a ton of cards, recycle a bunch of cards, so that way I can put 3 cards on the bottom of my deck and then use the Rich Fool to draw those 3 cards. It's a pretty solid strategy. And then I have 2 Hoof It Ultras, which help me get my power cards back. Plus, he's a 2 for 13, which is his main purpose in this deck. I was originally going to use Half a Lanch, but Half a Lanch is a 2 for 11, so he's been power crept on. Plus, Hoof It Ultra also has this ability, which allows me to discard from my hand to go grab up to 2 faith power cards from my deck in place in my power pool. So I chose him over Half a Lanch. Otherwise, I would be using Half a Lanch in this deck. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to a close, and this has been my Ezra Faith and Universal deck. In the meantime, Truth Seekers, keep learning virtues and defeating sins.